Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Sunday Night Breakdown. Daniel Ratledge and Dave Forrester with you to break down all the action, of which there wasn't very much this week in British basketball. I've just hot-footed it back from Riga, as you do. Dave, shall we do the BBL game first? Get that out of the way.
Absolutely.
And we'll come to the GB games in a minute. So we'll start with Sunday's action. Plymouth. Oh, how was your birthday, Dave? This was the thing people really want to know.
Well, I slept a lot. It was great.
Excellent.
Didn't have to watch the game. Went out for a nice Sunday lunch. Was treated semi-importantly by the family, which was nice. And watched the cricket in bed.
Excellent.
With the boiled egg and everything, and actually, and got some nice sports books upon which to top up my knowledge, to throw in topical references into the podcast.
Excellent. So whilst you were doing that, Plymouth City Patriots were playing Sheffield Sharks, and it finished the Patriots 69, the Sharks 88. Still no Simons for the Patriots. They only had 8 players. Lanapakana in the starters. He got in early foul trouble, so quickly went to the bench. But despite all of that, Plymouth started the game pretty well.
Yeah, he brought Brandon off the bench. Brandon's been a starter for them, but with Williams in, it kept Dusha in the game, and Dusha played the full 40. And so it was Dusha, Williams, Lanapakana, Hawthorne off the bench as well. He's been coming off the bench, and he started. And Hassan and Bell came off the bench too, which was so it was a bit of a kind of a change up for Plymouth, and they're still trying to find the combinations. Obviously, and Simons is a big miss because he's a floor spacer for them. Really kind of sets off Williams well. Obviously, played with Williams at college, so they're still trying to find answers for that. They did started okay. They have the benefit of Sheffield having a long trip, not having played for a couple of weeks. So the safe bet was always Plymouth to win the first quarter, to be honest. And that's kind of the way it panned out. Hassan in particular is a very efficient scorer early in the game, in particular, when the team is sharp and they know what they're running, and he's sharp in his movements. He's not worn down on defense, and he can get the basketball. He's an incredibly efficient finisher. And Dusha's been shooting the ball with such confidence that he becomes a different player at guard now. And I thought Sheffield were a bit slow starting, nothing particularly damaging about it. They just missed a couple of shots that they perhaps otherwise wouldn't. And it's a difficult place. It's dark, it's light. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You've got to be ready to play down there, and you can be ready to play mentally, and still doesn't mean everything's going to be right about where you're at physically. So I thought, Plymouth jumped on them as much as they could, but also Plymouth struggled with discipline again. Certainly I think they were in the penalty 5 minutes to go in the first quarter, and that becomes difficult to sustain after a while. If you're giving away foul shots in the penalty quarter after quarter, you haven't got that deeper bench. It allows the team just to stay in the game without actually having to make any plays, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, well, before they got in the penalty, they were 22-14 up. Hawthorne had hit a 3 and Douche had hit a 3, but as you say, Sheffield were able to just tick it over from the free throw line when they weren't perhaps firing on all cylinders. And it wasn't until the second quarter that Sheffield really got ahead in the game. 5 in a row, put them 28-32 ahead, and they never trailed again after that once they did get in front.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of a death by 1,000 cuts for Plymouth this game. That's kind of the way that Sheffield will play. They aren't likely to blow you away in kind of a 10-0 run in 90 seconds.
Yeah.
But they continue to pound down on you and penalise you for the mistakes that you make. And this was a game whereby Sheffield didn't actually shoot the ball that well. Rod Glasgow couldn't make a shot for about 3 quarters. They finished okay around the rim, but not dominating. But Sheffield got this interesting thing going on whereby they've almost got 2 separate setups. They play with Bennett Coke and Kipper Nichols up front early, and then they come back with Marcus Delpesh and Javion Oganyemi, and they play together. And neither of those guys is really interested in shooting the ball from outside about 18 feet. Oganyemi probably can, but he's not encouraged to do it. So they end up going from 4 out to being 3 with 2 bigs. And the 2 bigs is always a kind of a tricky thing for a coach, because it really necessitates impressive ball movement to keep the spacing right. You have to try and run high lows, whereby big, gets the ball at the top and tries to throw it down low. But the advantage of it is if you know where the shots are coming from, you've always got great offensive rebounding position. And Oganyemi in this game really hurt Plymouth on the offensive glass. And got extra touches and extra shot. I thought that really helped them, I thought. And Plymouth, they have to be able to defend, and they have to be able to defend without fouling. And particularly the bench guys, when you're in the penalty, the bench guys have to be really careful because they're coming on at the end of the first quarter, in the end of the second quarter, and they can't commit dumb fouls as well. Bell got into foul trouble when he came on off the bench. And you want your players to play with energy, but you also want them to play smart. And they haven't quite got that balance right, Plymouth, yet. And Sheffield just grew into the game. And by the end of the first half, I thought they were pretty much nailed on to win, to be honest.
Yeah. They didn't really get away until the start of the fourth quarter. It got out to 51-63. First time it was in double figures at that point. But as you say, it looked like it had coming, and then Hassan fouled out. There was other guys in foul trouble, so they were a bit more tentative, and it was an easy finish for the Sharks.
It was just the quality of the shot that they were getting. They were getting really good shots. My estimate, and I didn't go back and count them because it's my birthday, and B, I'm not quite that sad. But my estimate is that they probably had 3 times more passes in this game than Plymouth. In offense, that they moved up, that they had 3 times as many passes. Because Plymouth, by the end of the game, they were very much kind of dribble off a screen, try and find a shot, or maybe one pass and kick out, and then the next guy has a go. For Sheffield, the ball was just popping. It was popping left, right, and centre. They were going where they want. And then as Plymouth's offense began to break down a little bit, and Sheffield's defense remained strong, that's when he got out in transition. So Nelson got out in transition. Then Glasgow knocks down a couple of shots, and then I think Delpesh gets a dunk. And suddenly, it was at that point they broke their will before they broke the game open. That's what it seemed to me, And Plymouth obviously are short of bodies. Keita played a minute, so that's 7 players. Then you've got Antonio Williams committing, 2 daft fouls at the beginning of the third quarter, so he had to sit down the whole third quarter. When in reality they needed him to be able to carry a little bit of the offensive load at that point. And so it kind of slipped away.
Hassan
nearly, hey? 1 second, sorry. Nearly the first mascot technical of the season.
Yeah, he was close, wasn't he? He was close.
Yeah. We're waiting to see. It was interesting. That was our EuroLeague ref who pulled that one. We obviously don't know that. You can't be on. This is what people don't understand. You can't. There's an area around the court which is about 1 meter. I think it's 1 meter width from the court, which is the players and only the players area, and you just can't be on there when the ball's in play. And I think the mascot cut a corner. And went around inside instead of outside, and Judansky spotted it and basically stopped the game and gave him a stare from what I could see. And maybe Hurts, Pat, but it could be either way. He gave him a stare. And it sounds a bit churlish and a bit petty, but kind of that's the rules. That's what you got to do, and there's reasons for that. Because if that happened at a slightly more different point in the game, or maybe the ball goes over there and a player's trying to get it and get out of bounds, and the mascot's in the way, then all sorts of things can happen. And in college games and stuff like that in America, people have got technicals for that. Because it's a home team, it's affiliation to the home team. So we'll keep an eye out for that in future.
Indeed. Hassan with 16 points and 12 rebounds. Dusha 15 points and 5 assists. Hawthorne and Williams both had 13. Delpesh had 15 and 10 rebounds in 19 minutes and 58 seconds off the bench. Nelson 15.6 assists. They had 6 guys in double figures, and Banks had 9. It was 35-12 in bench scoring. So let's.
Just on that, I think. Sorry, just before we get that, I think Atiba's looking like a bit of a kind of a savant, a bit of a genius in relation to his recruitment, because he's got these 3 big guys, which most people would think that's 1 too many, because you got to get them minutes, you got to get them playing. He's got he's managed to find a way of of fitting them all together, and that none of them are ball dominant, and none of them appear to have any sort of ego in relation to I'm not getting my touches. And they've ended up in that game combining for 39 and 26. you know, and scoring efficiently, and they're providing enough size and enough rim protection defensively as well. And you know, the ability to kind of juggle, you know, three of those guys is really the bedrock of what Sheffield are doing at the moment. And then they're letting the guards come in and take over after that. So yeah, it's an interesting quirk, because you know, you've probably not seen a team with basically three pure centers, and two of them being import centers, three pure centers, and managing to, one, make it work, and two, keep everybody happy. You know, it's a new one on me. Even Sheffield, even Leicester have only had two really
Yeah.
at any time. You know, so good for them.
Right, let's go to the Great Britain games, starting on Friday night at the Virtue Motors Arena, where Great Britain were beaten by Serbia 68 points to 74. We speculated that Soko wouldn't be fit enough to play, and he wasn't. There were debuts for Quinn Ellis, Josh Sharma, and Aaron Menzies. Obviously, Serbia without the EuroLeague players, because it's a Friday night, so there's no Misic, Lucic, Kalinic, Marinkovic, Nedovic, of the players who were named in the 24 that you were going, oh, what a shame. What a shame this game's on Friday and not Monday. So
on Monday, I gather I think it was Lucic has been prevented from playing in the big game against Turkey.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, one of them was prevented from playing because he plays in Turkey.
Okay.
His club coach has prevented him from playing for Serbia Turkey at the last minute. I can't remember which one it was.
It'll be Misic. He plays for Efes.
Yes, that'll be it.
Yeah, brilliant. So I watched this
Wars
first
have
game.
started for less, you know. Wars have started for less.
I watched this game the wrong way around, because I was doing Germany against Finland on Friday night. So I actually saw the second half in real time, because my game was about an hour or so earlier, and then I watched the first half on Saturday morning. And the first thing I thought when watching the first half was, wow, that's a defensive unit that we've put out to start the game. Not sure how we score, but it was Olaseni, Nelson, Loto Ogunleye, Wheatle, and Anderson was the starting five. So there's a lot of defense there, but perhaps not quite as much offense. So it wasn't a massive surprise that it was 2-7 after 4 minutes.
No. I mean, let's just do a little. I mean, I'll do a little bit of rewind. I'll get all the political bits over first. Last 2 months have been wasted because we've not yet to have a review of what happened at Eurobasket, and we're going to have one now. Apparently, we've got a new chairman from the 1st of November who's now going to arrange a review, which no doubt will be finished by some time before the next window, I guess. Albeit given that there's only 2 games left and nothing on them, you know, one imagines things will kind of continue the same until after then, which is a waste. It's a waste of 6 months in relation to planning. That said, some good things have happened, and it'd be churlish not to say that. We got Dan Clark in as a general manager. Now, I don't know who got Dan Clark in as a general manager, because you know the board didn't seem to appoint him. Because we're told the board are conducting a full review from, you know, so one assumes that you're going to appoint the general manager as part of your full review. I can only hope that it isn't just a temporary thing and that Dan gets the opportunity.
I'd assumed it was for this window whilst they're doing the review, and then they will come to a decision going forward.
I'd assumed that too, but who then?
Who knows? Yeah.
You know, because it's an appointment. It's not just a continuation. It's
an
appointment, you know, so who knows? So again, unfortunately, clear as mud in relation to that. Similarly, obviously with Gareth coming in, Andreas not being able to be around this window for family reasons, which is fine. And Gareth coming in, which is great, because Gareth's, you know, a storied GB international. He's been around, he's committed himself to the program for years. He's a very bright, up-and-coming young coach as well. And so that's all good. It would be better if it had some certainty behind it. Sorry, I can't go beyond that. And it would be better if we'd had some form of public acknowledgement of previous individuals, and we haven't. Now, the good stuff. Firstly, and it'd be again wrong not to say this. We actually had a deputation of people who are in the job who are actually at the game. So, new chairman, Chris Grant, is there. I didn't dare approach him. So is the CEO of England Basketball England, Stuart Kellett, and a couple of directors, and there will be other people there who I didn't recognise as well. So they were there, which is obviously it's the absolute minimum one would expect, but it's better than it was. And hopefully what they saw was the opportunity of something to build on and build around. In relation to the team and the group, he did pick a starting five, which, as you say, was there for defense and was there basically, I think, to get in the Serbians' faces, because Jamel was guarding the point guard early on, which was kind of a cross match, which you wouldn't necessarily expect. And I think that's the identity that we have to have. You know, I just don't think it's particularly at home. You know, I watched all the press conferences after the games since they played in Newcastle. So that's 5 games now. And every single opposing coach has talked about the physicality and the togetherness of the GB team. And I think that's something you've got to kind of double down on, and they did. Offensively, it made it tough. It did. And particularly as the Serbians, whilst you mentioned all those guys they didn't have, they have a factory line of players.
Yeah.
I mean, and a little bit like the Latvians, they're all the type. You know, they're all either 6'4" with long arms, 6'7" with long arms, 6'10" with long arms, and 7'1" with long arms. You know, and they're built with, you know, every single one of them has the square shoulders. You know, every single one of them has the back. You can see that they've been, you know, basketball players almost since birth, that they've been tuned, they've been grown up. And our guys are kind of all shapes and sizes. Some of them are undersized. Some of them are bulky. Some of them, I say bulky as in muscle, as in some of them are just different. They're just it's not we don't have that kind of Eastern European commitment. It comes back down to the, you know, all our 6'7" guys with bodies like that play rugby, and they learn to change their bodies, change at a very early age. You know, so they bulk up for a different sport to the basketball. So you don't have that kind of lean type, and they move the ball ever so well, Serbia. You know, even without an enormous amount of individual kind of shot making talent, the ball pinged around, and they were all comfortable. Everything was about catch, stop, drive, catch, stop, drive, shoot. Sorry, kick out, shoot, get an open shot. Didn't shoot the ball very well, and the only way we can play against teams like that is to disrupt them. You know, and I thought we did. I thought we did it really well, and get them into a game. And then, you know, when we realized we were a bit short of offense, then Luke Nelson stepped up and really, you know, kind of carried the team forward.
Yeah, he did. He had 9 of the first 14 points, Luke Nelson, and a Whelan 3, and it's 14-12, and not a lot in it really until Jagodic Korija with 5 of an 8-0 run either side of half time put them 6 points up, 34-40. They had another 5-0 run to get 10 points up, and you were starting to worry for Great Britain, but they hung on in there.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought that the other thing about starting the lineup that he started was that, you know, it gives you some scoring off the bench, it gives you Whelan and potentially Mockford off the bench to give you some shooting off the bench, which, you know, outside of Nelson and Olaseni, we really didn't have any proven scoring. You know, we had guys who could maybe get you something here and there, but no one you would think, oh, he's going to go for 15 tonight. And so the idea was it kept us in balance. And, you know, we got some, you know, it was interesting to see Menzies play. You know, that's great to see him get his first few minutes for GB. And you know, he's a big guy and he sets good screens and he got a dunk. But also it's very, very difficult to come into that level of game, that level of intensity. And if you think about it, just around the first, you know, this was a 4-point game with a minute to go. And just around the first quarter break, you know, we gave up a basket when we couldn't get the ball in bounds, when Van Oostrum came in, and the pass was intercepted on getting the ball in bounds. And then Menzies turned the ball over, and I think his first touch, he turned the ball over at the halfway line. It was a 3-point play the other way. That's 5 points just on players just getting attuned to the speed of the game or playing with the other guys, and those 5 points end up being a critical 5 points. But where the program is now, we're going to have to be looking beyond the people that we've relied on for years, and Olaseni being one of them. Obviously Hessen, Soko, whatever. And it's right that we use these games to give people the opportunity to play and to get an idea of it. And you're right, we stayed in touch. Luke Nelson, Pesic actually got frustrated at his team at one point because the way they got Nelson. I think after when he got his 13th point, I think the idea was, this guy is going. Can somebody please, come off the screen and roll and stop him? And that I thought caused you want to try and create some uncertainty. It's a small gym in European terms. The crowd's very close. They didn't shoot the ball very well. Not many European teams have actually shot the ball very well in that gym. You want to try and get in ahead, just a little bit, just to be competitive, to know that we're here and hope that that's going to give you a chance and carry you through. And I thought they did a really good job of that. And just getting to half time and getting around half time close was important. The difficulty was always going to be scoring enough.
Let's get to the end of the game then. So 61-70 with 4.5 minutes to go. Not a great deal of scoring down the stretch, but GB scored all 7 points in the next 4 minutes. We'll go through them. 3:06 Nelson with the drive, 63-70. Radanoff misses a chippy and Williams runs it back for a dunk.
That got me off my feet.
Yeah.
That got me off my feet when because Jordan Milling's left-handed and he went down the right-hand side, took 2 steps, and basically everybody was like, whoa, where did that come from? The Serbians were like, whoa, where did that come from? That was kind of a momentum play. And you got to give, Jordan Williams a little bit of credit as well, because he's come from Hungary, so he's come halfway around Europe to play. He didn't go to Eurobasket, he's kind of come in with a few of the guys who were there not being around anymore. And Mark put him on relatively late in each half, probably towards the end of the third quarter and the end of the first quarter, but he couldn't take him off the court. And it's difficult because Jordan's a 4 really, and he doesn't shoot the ball particularly well from the outside, and he was able to stay on the court defensively against all these guys and also to give us a little bit of scoring when we needed it.
So that's 65-70. Then Luka Mitrovic misses 2 free throws with 2:11 to go. Nelson turned it over, but Motford stole it back. Williams was fouled. They did check it for unsportsmanlike. It would have been a little bit harsh, I think, but they checked it all the same.
My perspective, just where I was at the other end, and actually that Motford play was a big play, because I think if that was a layup, that game was probably at that point. But my perspective, I thought it was one of those kind of double foul situations.
Yeah, he got fouled by 2 different people.
And that's why I was standing up loudly, looking like an idiot doing this. And they went to the TV. I didn't see it on the TV, so I don't know what it's showing on the TV. Probably more optimistic than otherwise.
It was exactly like that. I think because the first guy fouls him, the ball isn't where the second guy is going for it. And I can't remember who it was that fouled. So the second guy's coming along to block him, but the first one fouls him on the arm, so the ball isn't there. So he just collides into him. So it super harsh to give that an unsportsmanlike in my view, and in the referee's view as well, because they just gave it a regular foul. So Williams makes 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 66-70. Marko Jagodic misses a 3. We come back the other way. Wheatle misses a 3. Williams with an offensive rebound, and Wheatle with a nice Euro step lays it in. 39 seconds to go. It's a 2-point game, 68-70.
And we never thought that was coming, and this was kind of testament to the one thing that came across from being up quite close, and I was in the 4th row back at the arena, was the intensity with which the game was played at, and the physical intensity in particular, which our guys showed. The togetherness and the commitment to what they were doing, and it was actually a fun game to watch for that reason, not because of any particular high level of skill, but basically no one took a possession off the whole game. And they were, given the level of the guys you were playing against, the moment that you did, boom, if it was a dunk. If the big guy wasn't where he's meant to be in the screen and roll, it was a kick out, and it was and it was only the tough players that beat us, the odd turnover, the big guy stepping out and making top of the key threes, that type of stuff. It was also well ref, because the refs basically let anything off the ball kind of go. They knew they had a line as to what level of physicality they were allowing, and they kept to that line, and then anything around the ball, and they were a lot sharper with, and that actually added to the flow of the game as well. And I haven't said, and that's not been the case with all the international games that I've been at the arena. So yeah, we got it back, and it was an interesting one, because I know that in my mind there was a balance. Particularly at the end, you've got Williams, Olaseni, who was excellent, by the way, in the second half. Olaseni, he just absolutely carried the team, finished at the rim, because they started doubling Nelson, and they started really hammering and stopping Nelson scoring. And Olaseni just rolled and rolled and rolled, and he got to the rim and he got fouled, and he was 10 or 12 on the foul line. He was absolutely awesome. And so you've got Williams, Olaseni, Nelson, Wheatle, and Wheatle's in there for his defense and his solidity. And then you've got the fifth guy, and the fifth guy was either going to be Mockford or Whelan, either or. And he went with Mockford, I think, probably because of his experience, probably because he's been there a little bit longer than Whelan. And I wasn't sure. Still not sure if it was the right call, but I understand why he made the call. And then Mockford steal. You got a jump shot before that, and either of them spaced the floor, And we needed one stop. And unfortunately, what happened was Gabe Olaseni, his man came up on the screen, and the whole game they'd been icing the screen and basically sending it to the baseline. But because his man came up but didn't actually go to screen, Gabe came up to the level of his man on the inside, and Luke Nelson's pressuring, and he allowed a right-hand straight line drive. I'm sure thinking that's where Gabe was going to be. And Jordan Williams is on the other side of the court, and it's not really his help, but he can't get across there quick enough. So they cleared out one side, and he got it's those little details, minor little details on which games depend. And he made that layup. And
Ogin Yaramas, it was. He basically had a straight line to the basket. A little too easy from GB's point of view, but as you point out, that's why. 19.2 seconds to go, 68-72, and then we kind of took a bit too long on the next play and ended up with an airball difficult three with 6 seconds to go.
It's a tough one, that, because if you've only got one timeout left, and you don't really want to burn that timeout, because you're going to need it to advance the ball, even if you get a score the next time down. There's an argument, we'll stay in the game and we'll get it, we'll see what happens. So again, that's probably a 50-50 call. But no, look, the problem, Luke Nelson was off his feet. Luke Nelson played 34 minutes. None of the Serbian team played more than 20. Right? He gave it everything. He was all over the court. Offensively, he was our shot maker. He was flying around. He was just dog tired by the end. And Gabe Olaseni played 34 minutes as well. And they had to play, because they were there's no point in them playing 28 minutes each if you lose the other 6 minutes by 12 points and you're not in the game at the end. They have to play. And we were just a little bit short in relation to legs, in relation to our shot makers at the end. So I think Luke's last three missed by quite a long way, but he was dog tired. I just thought the effort that they put in was really, really impressive. And it's difficult because last time I saw them, they played against Latvia, and they're exactly the same. We lost to Porzingis and grew by 7. And that was with Miles and Ovi as well. And and I thought in that game, the effort and the intensity and the togetherness was great. And then you had kind of the Eurobasket debacle, where it was anything but. Whatever happened, it just dissipated. It just disappeared. So I'm thinking, is this because of is it because of the shortness of the window? Is it because of the personnel? Is it because of the coaches back in America and the assistant coach is not the coach again? What is it? But that was a different level. That was something you could build on, whereas Eurobasket was nothing more than something you could throw in the garbage. So we'll get to that in a minute because we've got another game to do.
Yeah. All right, Shannon with 20 and 7. Nelson, 15.6 rebounds, 9 assists. Whelan had 10, 3 of 4 from 3-point range. Dusan Ristic with 15 points, 11 rebounds. Danilo Andjusic with 14 points. Alexa Radonov 10, and Marko Jagodic-Skorica also had 10. And that officially put Great Britain out of qualification mathematically. We weren't giving them much of a shot realistically
Meantime,
before that.
the Latvians would, yeah. Well, in the meantime, the Latvians were destroying the Greeks or something, weren't they?
By 20 in Greece.
In Greece,
80-60, I think it was.
And it's like, okay, you go to Riga, fellas. You just
Yeah.
did your bollocks off in Newcastle against a bunch of Serbians who were all at one point in that game against. I looked across and I think at the end of the third quarter, because Mark was trying to find some rest for Olaseni and Nelson. You had a team whereby every single one of our guys was about 4 inches shorter than every single one of the Serbians at their position. So you had Dilo, Jordan Patrick Whelan, you had Mockford, you had Jordan Williams, and maybe Carl Wheatley or Jamel or someone like that. And Jordan Williams was playing at the 5 because obviously he decided that he didn't want to play at the 5, Menzies or Sharma at the 5 in the second half because he didn't think it worked in the first half particularly well. Had to get Olaseni some rest. Didn't work. They had to come back in within 2 minutes. But that's the thing of constantly looking for lineups. It just struck me, the physical disparity in the players that we think of Jordan Williams as a big guy. Williams is 6'6".
Yeah.
It's that's a Latvian shooting guard. Or a Serbian shooting guard. You don't have any of them. You don't have any 6'6" shooting guards.
So let's move to tonight's game. Latvia 79, Great Britain 63. A 50th cap for Devon van Oostrom. He's the 14th player to reach 50, and he was into the starting lineup. As we mentioned, they won by 20 in Greece on Friday, Latvia, and they had actually qualified for the World Cup for the first time in their history, obviously coming off the back of having missed out on Eurobaskets. They made one change to their lineup. Pashesniks was in, and Steenbergs, I think it was out from the Friday night game. We kept with them in the first 6 or 7 minutes, but my worry was that it was at 15-15, and I just thought, I'm not sure we've got the offense to keep going with this.
Yeah, that was kind of the problem. I think I probably agree with the move to start Van Oostrom. I think if you can, from what I've seen, even at London as well, if you're going to get stuff out of him, I think he's a point guard. He's not a change of pace point guard. He's a table setting point guard. So I think he's better playing with the starters, insofar as he doesn't have to create perhaps as much, and can just and he's defensively solid. So we're not going to get that much out of him off the bench. You may as well start him. That's the logic of it. I've got no problem with that. And yeah, we ran some nice stuff early. Again, Olaseni, kind of getting to the rim a little bit. Playing with tremendous heart and commitment. And the difficulty was that these guys can shoot, and it's not just it wasn't just the fact that we allowed them to shoot, because they can shoot against everybody. I think they had about 120 against Turkey in that gym or something ridiculous. They are, and it wasn't just kind of the shots that they made; it was the manner in which they made them. They were just drilling the back of the rim. It wasn't, no lucky bounces or anything like that. If they were open, they were making threes, and so that really expends a lot of energy defensively for us. And again, we were trading lineups, basically offensive lineups for defensive lineups, trying to find a bit of a balance, and without Luke Nelson's creativity again, the offense kind of dried up again a little bit. You can't play these guys 40 minutes. You can't do that. And so that's when teams get on run us. because we get shots which aren't where we're expecting them to come from. And I think at one point in the middle of the second quarter, great listening to the timeouts, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, to Gateshead or to Leicester, the offense has gone to a specific form of human excrement.
Yeah.
And basically, and that means that we don't get to run back because teams beat you and get threes on you on the break.
Well, it was Lomash who was hit a couple of threes early in the second quarter. GB can't score. It's a 15-2 run, and suddenly it's 37-22. First half, we were 0 of 10 from 3-point range. They made 6. It's 40-28 on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and 40 is pretty good against that team. It suggests that you're playing hard. The reality has been with GB for a while that in the games that we make threes in, we're in. Games that we don't make threes in, we're not. And because it's a difference between a 28-point half and probably a 36 or 37-point half. And we did get some open shots. We got some, but what we don't have are necessarily guys you would trust your life to knock down an open shot. Right? Or the ones that we do have, the closest to them are probably Whelan's the closest. Maybe Mockford as well. But they make us small because neither of them are particularly ball handlers. They're both in the BBL. They basically play the 3. But to get away with them at the 3 in World Cup qualifiers, again, they're having to guard someone who's 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". Whelan's obviously got more off the dribble than Mockford, but still Whelan's primarily a shooter at this level. So the threes that we're getting are guys like Wheatle, who's that's not his forte. Jamel, who can knock them down, but isn't what you describe as a knockdown shooter. And Luke Nelson, who can make them again, but it's not actually the strongest part of his game is shooting, because he tends to shoot difficult shots. He can make them, but shoot difficult shots. And 0 of 10 is virtually unsurvivable, against a team like that, because long threes mean long rebounds, and then they can get out and run. And it's interesting. Sharma played this game instead of Menzies, so he gave Sharma a shot. The other thing we should comment on is that 4 minutes into the game, then Quinn Ellis is coming in the game, which is great, because again, it's showing a degree of forward thinking. There's no point taking these kids just to put them on the bench and let them watch.
Yeah.
And it's a game that ultimately doesn't matter. We can't qualify. It's a fantastic opportunity to gain experience. And and Quinn Ellis played 7 or 8 minutes in the first half, and will be 100 times better for it. And that's that's that. And Mark gets to see Josh Sharma as well. And he gave us a little bit offensively, a couple of putbacks, etc. And I thought we balanced kind of that very, very well. But it was one of those games. It was kind of a Eurobasket style game whereby they were comfortable, weren't they?
Yeah. Not a lot happened in the third quarter. Whelan made a couple of plays at the start of the fourth quarter, hit a couple of threes, got it down to 12, and you went in. Speaking of time, listening to the timeouts, you go into the timeout, and Banky's just going mad at them because it's like, what the hell? What did he say? Play seriously or something like that. He said. Because they were in cruise mode at that point.
We have fouls to give,
yeah.
The other thing was about that, you say Whelan made a couple of threes. I think Mockford made a 3 as well, and then Wheatle got to the rim. It's not a coincidence, because at that point we had our best offensive 5 on the court. We had the most we had Nelson, we had Mockford and Whelan acting as proper floor spacers. So that creates a space for everybody else. We had Wheatle playing as a stretch 4, which is what he does in Italy, because he's been the point guard. He's played at the 3, but he was actually the undersized 4, and he's really good at playing undersized. You can see he's used to it. The couple of times he jammed the screen and roll where he got inside and forced a turnover when the roll guy got through on the ball. He's a smart basketball player. The knock on him is he just needs to be able to knock down a shot a little bit more than he does, shoot the ball with more confidence, and then all of a sudden in the middle, right? And that group scored 16 points in 5 minutes. Right, and that's not a coincidence. It's personal. The problem is you can't play that group 40 minutes. That group is short of size defensively and is going to get worn down over a game. And Mark played it the whole fourth quarter. And actually, I thought, which was fine because it was only our only shot of getting back in, we had to score the ball. But just to kind of leave you with it on that one, just go back to the last game in Eurobasket and the utterly hapless, basically, I say hapless, probably hopeless is fair as well. Defeatist environment that was played out in, right? It was, I mean, what we scored 4 points in the last quarter against.
Well, was it 2? I thought it was 2. Maybe we scored more than 2, but they scored it was like a 20-2 run to finish.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was all. But anyway, it looked as dysfunctional as anything dysfunctional could be. Now you're playing in Latvia against a team who's already qualified with X thousand Latvian fans there. You're down 18, them knocking shots down from all over the court. And you could do the same.
Yeah. Easily.
But that towel could have gone in.
Easily,
right?
yeah.
And I just desperately hope, and I'm biased on this one, big time. But I desperately hope that we've got somebody with half a basketball brain who is looking at Mark Stool, Dan Clark, Gareth Murray, Andreas Kapoulis, if he's going to be involved, and saying, actually, these guys have got a connection with the players, because character is not shown in victory, character is shown in defeat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what happened in the summer, for whatever reason, I think it's pretty clear from the evidence that we had that Nate Rankin did not have a connection with those players. And to be fair, why would he? Because he hadn't coached them, been around them. He hadn't had the opportunity to understand what makes them tick. And the games I've seen, certainly at Newcastle, and the games and obviously even on the road, and some of the games that they've played since and before Eurobasket, there is no doubt that those players are utterly committed. And it fits in with something that Olaseni said after the game on Friday night. I don't know if you saw the press conference. But it was only a very short one. But Gabe Olaseni basically talked extremely well about how, when he was younger, he had guys like Kieran Achara who showed him the ropes, who showed interest in him, who helped develop him, and that he saw it as his responsibility. And he's very careful on saying this until the end of this window, as the captain of the team, to start doing the same, to lead by example, pass it down. And he also very interestingly said, and I'd have to look back for the exact words, but he said something along the lines of, and there is no other team or coaching staff I would prefer to do it with. Right? And he's previously gone into bat for. And where our national team program is at the moment, it is not one which is going to be solved by X's and O's.
No.
And it doesn't even really need solving, to be honest. It needs building. There's a difference, right? It's not broken. What it is it's not efficient in relation to the way that it's run from top down. There's too much dysfunction around, and the only way that they've been able to salvage it, to keep it going, is very much to adopt a them and us mentality, from what I can see, and of which Mark and Gareth and Andreas and now Dan, obviously Dan's been in from the very beginning, because we know Dan's been in there making speeches and saying things he needed to say. Now he's sat on the bench. And I just hope that we don't remake the mistakes of the past. An NBA assistant coach is not going to help JV basketball at this point. A high-level European coach arguably could help, but then you've got to deal with the politics, and that individual has to deal with it with a situation which will be unlike any situation.
Yeah, exactly. That would be my pushback on that. Is they wouldn't accept what's been delivered over the last X amount of time.
Absolutely.
Now, nor should they. It would be my point on that. But if we're unable to deliver in the immediate term, what's required, but we can demonstrate that we're building towards that, then I think the sort of people that you've listed out there would be more likely to buy into it over a longer term.
Absolutely. There has to be a level of, commitment, and most, but the players have to be buying into whatever,
Yeah.
whatever is out there. And on top of that, we'd probably have to pay them quite a lot of money, and I'm not sure that
Yeah, that we've got quite a
that
lot
we've
of money
got
to
quite
pay
a lot of
them.
money to pay somebody. So, I'm really, I'm not a great fan of all-encompassing reviews of stuff. I just think, that is kind of, you get lost in committees, and
Yeah.
I just don't. I think, professional sport is far too fast. It's far too quick.
Yeah.
You need decisiveness. You need strong leadership, which means occasionally going out on a limb, and you might be wrong. You might make the wrong decision, but if you make the wrong decision in the right way,
Mm.
at the very least, you give yourself a chance of surviving it. What I don't think anybody benefits from is the 2.5 months that were wasted already, and another 2 months of that.
Well, I mean, my take on it is, I sort of look at it and go, it's not really rocket science, the review, is it? Because
No,
you and me, without really any insight, because we're just sitting there watching at home on a stream, can see the catalogue of things that have not been done well in the build up to Eurobasket.
yeah,
We can see that, and we can do it. Okay, we maybe got maybe took us 4 hours in 3 podcasts to get it all out, but we got it all out. And actually, people out in the world who've talked to us about it have come to a similar sort of conclusion. So it's one of these things. I mean, it is very I say British sport. I'm sure they do it elsewhere, but this whole we'll have a big all-encompassing review and we'll do this and that and the other, and it'll take 6 months. My take is it's quite easy to see what the issues are, and I would much rather when we come to this again in February to say, okay, so since then this has happened. We've done whatever size of review we need to do. This is the plan going forward. This is the coaching setup. This is the general manager, whatever the title needs to be set up. These are the people that we're going to build forward with. Because actually, here you've got a group of players who might be willing to sacrifice everything that they've sacrificed thus part for one more window. But they will be doing a review at the end of that window, I would say, and going, actually, what is the benefit of me giving up my body and my time and my summers and my whatevers going forward? What with what reward? And I mean, reward is. I don't mean that in a financial term. I just mean in sort of looking
benefit.
after them. And yeah, exactly. They're putting the effort in. What effort has been put in on behalf of them? So my view of it is, you have to have this all done by February, because that's the point. That's almost like the get out point. So
Yeah.
Gabe could say, you know what? I've done my time. I've given it a good effort. What age is he now? 30, 31, something like that. I'm going to retire from international basketball. And
Ovi's the same. Ovi's in his
yeah,
30s.
Ovi might do the same. So actually, and we've just lost Dan, and suddenly you're starting again with guys who haven't really had the exposure to it to this point. So I almost feel like we need some if not all of those guys to carry on into the next window. But if I was them, I'd want to know, okay, so show me your plan, tell
Yeah.
me what it is, and then I'd want it to see. Then I've got some criteria by which to judge you going forward. So I think,
If I was in the coaching staff, I'd also want to say to them, "What's your plan?"
yeah,
If
yeah,
I was in the
yeah,
coach, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. What's your how are you going to support us?
yeah.
Are you committed to this program? Because the most damning indictment of the whole bloody thing over the past 3 or 4 months has been that people have genuinely and with cause wondered aloud whether or not there was some form of agenda to run the program down to the point whereby we didn't even have the teams.
Mm,
Which is nonsense if you think about it.
yeah.
It's not been beyond the bounds of thinkability, of possibility, to suggest that. What an indictment that is.
Mm,
So yeah, I agree. No, I'm not suggesting in any way that people should be given sinecures or promises, etc. But I've seen what we need is a team playing for each other.
Yeah.
That's it more than anything. And what we need, and I saw. I'm looking at the difference between Mark and Gareth on the sideline and Nate on the sideline over the summer. Just in the manner in which they are living the game, how committed they are to that team. Now, that to me at this point in our development, because if you think about it, we are going to be moving on to the Quinn Ellis's. We're going to be Cameron Hildreth's going to be coming back from college, and Tozan's going to be coming back from college, and there'll be other guys out there that I should have mentioned who I haven't, who'll be coming back from college, who are all have the ability, if they remain in professional basketball, to be players who can play at a reasonably high level and take us through as that next generation. But there has to be a connection with them. What we've learned about all of this is that if there is no connection, we just don't have anything to fall back on. And so if they are dumb enough to throw out the connection, the one good thing that they have going for them at this point, which is a team of players and staff who are putting it all in, whatever their technical frailties, whatever their technical flaws, and that's coaching and playing, however you judge them, it doesn't matter a bit compared to the fact that they are, that fourth quarter tonight indicated to me that they're still in it.
Yeah.
They're up, there's no quitting them.
Totally.
And that, and again, I'm not, but if I was recruiting any sports team, that's the first thing any sports coaches, that's the first thing I look at. What can you get the best out of the players that you've got? Because the players aren't going to change. We just need the best of them.
Yeah.
And the best not be enough to win, but the player, but we didn't get the best of them. We didn't get the best out of them in the summer. No question.
No.
For various reasons. So that will be interesting. So we'll return to this in February.
We will, yes. Just to seal off the game, the GB got it down to 12 a couple of times. Never quite looked like they were going to go over the line, and when they did, Bertans or Laxa made a 3 when they needed to, and that was basically it.
Made some tough threes as well. I mean, they threes, but they did make some tough ones.
Yeah.
And it was a sharp movement. It wasn't that you think, oh, he's fallen asleep on defense or he hasn't covered that assignment. It's just that their ball movement was too good. And as I say, they've done that to every team in the tournament. They're like 7-1 or something.
Yeah, 7-1.
7-1, and they're beating good teams, and they're beating them because they're destroying them in a hail of threes. And you can see why, because they're all, they all know where the shots are coming from. They're really impressive. I'm a Latvia fan now. My daughter likes them because you can chant their name quite easily. So she was in.
They had two different Latvian chants going on as well. It was nice. Lomash with 15, 4 of 7 from 3-point range. Laxa had 11. Tima had 11. 5 guys in double figures. 14 of 32 from 3-point range. Nelson led Great Britain with 16 points and 8 assists. Olashani with 14. Wheatle 13 and 8 rebounds. They were 6 of 23 from 3 and 40% from field goal range. Tough to win from that. And as you say, Dave, I think we'll revisit this subject in February.
Yeah, well, that's it. There's green shoots. We actually had people who were involved at the game, so that's a start. But I'm looking for something. I'm looking for some leadership. I'm looking for a public face, a bit of public facing, a bit of kind of rally the troops. I'd like a little bit of vision for the future of the program. By all means, take your time to make the decision, albeit there's no reason why it can't be made before Christmas. So, I mean, we're at November the 14th now, so how, what does it take? And then it needs not just to be a kind of heads down under the parapet, just come out with something. It needs to be, this is why we're doing it, this is what we're doing, and this is the plan. Because at the moment, the sport and the administrators in the sport benefit from the lack of public profile of it. And then that they don't have to come out and say this, and that's in all parts of basketball, not just the international team, that's the BBL, that's the international, that's Basketball England, everything, because there's no particular press interest, there's limited scrutiny, that it's regarded as being something we can just toddle along, and there needs to be a sea change in mentality in relation to that, across the board. And this would be a great way to start, because you've got a fresh start.
Yep.
You've got a new chairman, go for it, please, Mr. Grant, go for it.
Yep, go for it and get it done so that we can all know what is happening before February, including and most importantly the players, so that we get the buy-in from them going
Most
forward.
importantly, Dan, don't be afraid to fail. No
Yeah.
harm shooting high to fail. And if we
Mm.
say this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and if we don't make it, look, we failed before.
Mm.
You know, we failed in silence. We failed in dilettantism. We failed in ignorance. We failed in every which way you can fail, right? But there's something there now, and the FIBA windows actually give us a leg up into it because it gives us an opportunity to compete with some of these teams if we get our crap in order. So let's go for it. Yeah, let's infuse the program with some enthusiasm. That will be the major thing, and that sounds really kind of like under 15 stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, it does sound
Well,
really,
if they
really
can give
childish.
me and you some enthusiasm, they'll be doing well, Dave. That'll
Yeah,
be
well,
the
no, but
thing.
the play, but it
Yeah.
goes, it cascades down, it
Yeah,
cascades
it
to
does. Yeah.
everybody, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, everybody has to have each other's backs, and that's not happened.
Mm.
So how, you know, it's not of them and us. It's a question of us,
Yeah.
and that's the only way it can work. And fingers crossed. Hopefully, hopefully Dan gets the responsibility to be that link and to make sure that all the things he's complained about in the past can be
Yeah.
put right.
Yeah.
And if they made Dan Clark the public face of it, that's fine. It doesn't have to be the
Yeah.
chair. It doesn't have
No,
to
it
be the
doesn't.
board, provided they invest somebody with the ability to make a difference, to stand up for us, to stand up for the players, to stand up for the sport, to kick up a fuss when we haven't got TV coverage or whatever, to explain to people why, 23 countries out of 24 in Eurobasket have TV coverage and we don't, to give it some visibility. And that's what they got to do. Well, we'll see. Proof of the
We
pudding.
will see indeed, and if anything does happen between now and February, we'll pick up on that on our usual.
No, I don't like, I don't like commenting on GP, Dan. I don't think we should go there. I think it's quite inappropriate.
So, on that, we will return to normal next week. We'll be back to our usual chatting about BBL on a Sunday night. Dave won't be having a birthday next week, which is a good thing, given the size of the number of the next one. So for now, everybody out there, have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday night. Goodbye.